Hi there, we're officially live with Dr. Ash. So today he's going to be talking about the importance of IEPs, parent-educator communication, and incorporating inclusion in the classroom. So the first question to Dr. Ash is, can you describe the purpose and significance of the individualized education plan?
The individual education plan is focused on what is the best way to deliver learning for the student. It has a clearly outlined plan that is composed with input from the parent, the special ed teacher, the homeroom teacher, and some specialty outside services such as PT and OT, for example, where needed. And the IEP clearly outlines progressive steps and strategies that teachers, after meeting and discussing the strengths and needs of the student, devise this plan, a learning plan, where the student enters into the curriculum, of course, with the supports that he or she needs to be able to understand and benefit from the curriculum that's being taught. It is a legal document, and every single school board is obligated to provide that IEP for a student that has been identified as being, as they term it, exceptional.
How do you know what goals to work on regards to IEP?
Explain that one more question, sorry.
Yeah, sure. How do you know what goals to work on with regards to the IEP?
Well, before an IEP is actually designed, part of it, of course, would be observations of the child's learning pattern by a homeroom teacher, also assessment by the special education teacher to see, for example, how he or she is doing in acquiring some of the basic skills, for example, in reading, writing, speaking, and listening in the language area, and in terms of math, whether it would be mathematical computation skills or problem solving, depending on what level that they are at. So there would be obviously assessment evaluations of the areas of strength and the areas of need, and as the program unfolds, each student being different would receive what he or she needs. So if a child is identified, for example, on the spectrum versus an intellectual disability such as Down syndrome, for example, obviously the outline of the learning plan for those students would be dependent on what their particular learning needs are, because every student that is exceptional and receiving special education assistance would have different needs, different strengths, and we always try to build on the strengths of the student first and then provide the supports for the areas of need.
What is the best way for parents to communicate with their child's teacher?
Communication is really key, because as we look at students and education and their students in school, it must be seen, as the ministry has outlined clearly, it is a collaborative partnership between home and school. We know that communication is imperative in ensuring transparency and clarity in what is going on. So, for example, if students are receiving special education assistance and they can communicate themselves, obviously mom and dad at home would ask how your day went, have a look at some of their work and be able to have an idea of how they are progressing. If they need to get clarification, they are always encouraged to call and establish a rapport with the homeroom teacher, who is equally interested in the well-being of the student, which is their child or their son or daughter. It is essential that when we're looking at the whole idea of communication, another way, if they are non-communicative students, then perhaps, again, arranging with the teacher in the class that a weekly journal could be sent home. So again, the parents are aware of how the child is progressing in his or her individual education plan. So I would suggest contacting the teacher, developing a rapport and understanding that you are there to help the teacher and willing to offer any sort of advice in terms of what's happening at home, because again, the teacher at school has the child for 6 hours a day, whereas the parent has them to rest. So it must be a collaborative effort, a shared responsibility, and communication is key, whether it's through the phone or whatever other way the teacher in the classroom feels is the best way to communicate. But also, if they can communicate, the students who cannot communicate, a weekly journal is really a good tool.
What is the best way to advocate for a child's needs?
The best way to advocate for a child's need is to develop a relationship with the teacher, because personal relationships are the building block from which everything else formulates, in my view. It flows from the personal relationship. So, for example, providing for the teacher on day one a little bit of outline, like a kind of an outline, a photo of the student, okay, what they like, what information, like a story a little bit about your son or daughter for the teacher, to help the teacher gain a little bit of information and to begin to establish that understanding of your child. So it's kind of a friendly. It also shows that you are there to support the teacher and give the teacher some information about your son or daughter, which would be helpful for them when they meet him, especially in September as we are in this first month of school. So communication in terms of that is important. Then, for example, in advocating, you are stating some of the things in a relationship with the teacher of what you believe you'd like your son or daughter to learn or to work on, so that it becomes a collaborative effort to inform the teacher, and then the teacher is clear on what is expected or what your expectations are for your son or daughter within, obviously, the bounds of the IEP, of course. The next thing is, in terms of advocacy, if, for example, the school, you want to have other ways to advocate for your child, it's always important for you to get involved with the local association that represents your particular child's diagnosis, whether it's autism, whether it's a Down syndrome association, learning disability, or whatever, for you to get connected so that you as a parent can become informed and have them as a support to inform and provide you with information about that particular diagnosis that your son or daughter has. So get connected with the local community that represents that particular diagnosis for resources and to ensure that your information of advocacy is well informed and well based. So that's really important. The Special Education Advisory Committee, which has a representative of, for example, autism, Down syndrome, learning disability, is another avenue that you can also look to, but best to go through your representative association and get information if you want to proceed and you're not sure of how things are going for your son or daughter. And then you move from that, of course, to the principal, of course, too, if you are needing further clarification or you want to have a further or deeper conversation, you are certainly able to, after you have gone to the homeroom teacher, then, for example, the next level would be to the administration. But I would caution you that always you work on the homeroom or the classroom teacher as your first point of entry, and try to develop a positive relationship and develop understanding through communication.
As an educator, how can you help incorporate inclusion into the classroom?
As an educator and presently teaching special ed here at Niagara University, of course, inclusion, I'm teaching the inclusion method. So, for example, on opening day, I believe, for example, that I teach the teachers here that they need to provide a welcoming atmosphere. So how do they do that? Well, there are a number of different strategies that I've spoken to my teachers about. A bulletin board displaying the child's picture, maybe their ethnic origin, so maybe they're coming from China or that, so that you're showing visually to all the children that yes, we come from different parts, but this is a community where everybody counts. I think that's important. When parents come in, many of them, of course, are immigrants or new Canadians, so for them to see their values and their community, their own community, validated in the classroom, I think that gives them a sense of acceptance and a sense of inclusion. The other thing is to develop a respectful relationship in the classroom, ensuring that students feel that they all belong. involving all the students so that everybody gets a turn to do the different tasks, that everybody gets a turn to be in the various sporting activities at whatever level they can be, or other activities. So you must find, teachers are encouraged to find a place for every student in their classroom to be recognized, to be respected, and to be included. So what are inclusion? Inclusion comes from respect. Inclusion comes from looking at, we all are made differently, not just ethnically, not just the color of our skin, but our likes, the things we do well versus the things that we don't do as well as that, and ensuring that everybody has got strengths, everybody has got possibilities, and everybody with their difference coming together makes it a unified learning environment, and makes it an environment where children in your classroom need to be happy. Education and learning is meant to be happy. They should be happy, they should be enthused. So that's where the teacher comes and provides comforting remarks, positive remarks to the students. Oh, that was a great job you did there, Johnny. Oh, how did your volleyball game go on the weekend? To show that personal relationship, because as I always say, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And inclusion is the only way for students in Ontario to be at their best.
How do you deal with stigma or resistance you face with regards to your child's IEP?
Well, there should not be any stigma. An IEP is not a negative document. An IEP is a support. So, for example, if somebody skiing breaks their leg and they come in on the Monday after skiing with a broken leg, they have a crutch. That is just part of the support they need to make them comfortable and to be able to endeavor them to move around. So the IEP is kind of like a support. It's a support that you need for a certain period of time because of the way you learn, and we all learn differently. So I look at the IEP as a positive support. So again, taking medication is some way to keep you healthy because you need some more vitamins or something. So it is a tool. It is a tool of support. So people, I don't know, negative stereotypes are in the minds of people who are not involved and understand the complexity and the benefits of an IEP. An IEP is simply a learning plan for students who are identified as having a special need. So I, an educator, certainly don't see them, and I don't think that parents should see them as an IEP. It is a support. Parents want what's best for their son or daughter. This IEP takes a lot of expertise, a lot of professionalism to design it in the first place. And then it is designed totally with parent cooperation, don't forget parent input, for the benefit of that child. So I've never thought of an IEP as having a stereotype, and I don't know where that comes from, but I've never heard about it.
Is there any other concerning issues you have with regards to IEP and parent educator communication and inclusion?
I, as a parent myself, and I look at the three sides of the coin. I'm a parent, I'm an educator, and I'm an advocate. So I see all three different roles, I guess, together. And when I'm looking at myself now teaching the future teachers, I like to make sure that I instill in them that their job as a teacher is to help their students to be the best that they can be with whatever level of ability they have, using respectful language in the classroom. So sometimes we are still outdated, and we use outdated language to describe students. So, for example, I teach person-first language to the teachers, so that the new vocabulary going out and talking about students will be one of respectful commentary. Back to inclusion, I have always lived in inclusion because there can never be us and them. If you are inclusive, it means that you must find a place in the circle of 360 degrees for everybody. If you have 359 degrees in a circle, it is not a circle because it needs 360, which means you need to be inclusive across all the different realms. And we have different realms, we have different intersection of race, different intersection of faith, intersection of gender. So we have a composite collection of these intersections within a person who has got a disability, person who is identified. So we need to see the holistic picture, but not just focus on the disability. That is only one aspect. So my daughter has Down syndrome. That is one aspect of who Lindsay is. She loves to sing, dance, she's very friendly. So we need to look at the whole complexity and not focus on the one area of an identification, because we need to identify people in totality. We are all very complex and human beings with all sorts of different entities within us.
For those who have joined us on our lives, if you have any questions for Dr. Ash, he is more than happy to take any questions. And Dr. Ash, do you have any last thoughts or opinions on school for this year?
I would just say that I think that parents should connect with their teacher. I know that they have Meet the Teacher Night in the month of September, but then I think you want to open up the lines of communication. You need to, as a parent, we need to understand that these people who are teaching our children are trained professionals. They have gone through 6 years of university training, okay, in the field, and then they are equipped in that particular area. Their pedagogy, their understanding of education, that's what they were trained for. That's what they have been certified as. So we need to understand as parents that we are in good hands with qualified, certified teachers. And I can tell you that here at Niagara, the students that I teach here, it's a joy to be with them. I personally love being with them. I see the future as committed young people who've got a vast array of ideas, but who are committed, passionate, and really do care about their students. So I feel I'm very fortunate to be learning both with and from them.
Any last advice for parents?
Trust in your gut feeling and communicate when there is some question you don't understand. Ask about it. Seek clarification, because if we don't have clarification, we tend to get anxious and worry, and that's not going to help. So you need to clarify, because the question that students always ask, the able-bodied students for sure, so what did you do at school today? The answer is nothing. Well, we know that that's not true. So therefore, with the journal, for example, for students who are nonverbal, or with the communication, whether it's a phone call or email or whatever way the teachers set that up, you want to make sure that you clarify anything that you're not sure of, and that way you're not anxious and we're not misinterpreting particular information that we want to make sure is clear.
So we would like to thank you for joining our live, Dr. Ash. And if you guys have any questions for him in the future, you can reach out to programs@smilecan.org, and I can send out the questions to him. And if you guys want more live with Dr. Ash, please let us know so that we can make this happen more often. But thank you, Dr. Ash, for joining us on our Instagram live today.
Thank you, and have a great day.